And we are live from South Carolina in the United States. Welcome back, everyone, to episode 26 of Priceless Takes, talking sport with Luka Price. I am your host, Luka Price, and what an episode we have in store for you today. Now, unfortunately, I am solo today. We don't have any guests on the show. The guests have been putting hard work recently. I decided to give them a week off, but nevertheless, we still have a great episode in store for you. Everything is going on in the world of sports right now. We have lots of NBA action to get into. We are less than a week from the final game of the regular season, and things are starting to heat up. This playoff battle in the West is getting heavy. In the East, we seem to have a three-horse race, and the rest are starting to fold into place. But we will get straight into it. Today's, ladies and gentlemen, this episode is going to be centered around my top 5 bold predictions for the NBA playoffs. Now, like I stated, obviously we aren't at the playoffs yet, but this is how, based off how I see the end of the regular season playing out, I've also, in my predictions, put in a couple of scenarios where teams may be faced with more than one potential scenario based on where they are in the standings right now. This is particularly for the Western Conference teams that I'm going to be talking about, because from about places 5 through 10, there's really a lot to be desired and a lot could change. But we will get straight into it. My top 5 predictions, bold predictions for the NBA playoffs. Starting with number 1, we're going to get off with a bang here. My first bold prediction is that the Los Angeles Lakers will make it out of the first round of the playoffs. And a lot of you might be thinking, wow, what a surprise. A lot of you might be thinking, duh, the Lakers are in a great position to go on a deep playoff run. But if there's one thing we've seen in previous years, that it has been extremely hard for lower seeds to actually get through the first round in general of the playoffs. Each year we see this hype of, oh, could this 7 seed beat this 2 seed? We saw it last time the Lakers were in the playoffs when they versed the Phoenix Suns in the 7-2 matchup. Everyone was just thinking, oh, it's the Lakers, it's LeBron, it's AD. The Suns, this is their first sort of year as a team coming into the playoffs, and the Suns wiped them out in 6 games. We also saw on the Eastern Conference, we saw the Brooklyn Nets and the Boston Celtics face off, and everyone again was saying, oh, Brooklyn has KD and Kyrie. You know, they're gonna just walk over Boston, and Boston swept them. So this narrative that's being portrayed that frequently higher seeds can potentially knock off lower seeds towards the top of the playoff bracket are false, because that has not been happening in recent times. But I'm here to tell you why I think the Lakers will make it out of the first round. I'm here to also tell you who I think they will beat in a first round series. I have 3 teams that I have previewed for. The first one is if the Los Angeles Lakers versus Sacramento Kings in the playoffs. Out of the 3 teams, I think this first one is the most likely. I think the Lakers are poised to finish in the 6th seed and see where they go. See where they go from there. If they finish in the 6th seed, they will verse the Kings. If they finish in the 7th, then Grizzlies, and 8th, Denver. If they somehow manage to get up to the 5th, which I don't think they will be able to leapfrog the Warriors and the Clippers. However, they do have a great chance to leapfrog the Clippers on Wednesday night and take control of that 6th seed. Ultimately, my most realistic scenario for the Lakers, I see them versing the Kings in the first round of the playoffs. Now, what does a potential playoff series look like against Sacramento? Now, the Lakers are 1-3 against Sacramento Kings this year. However, 0 games against the Kings have been played since the trade deadline, which is where the new look Lakers roster has taken shape. Obviously, the previous 3 games featured the old roster with Russell Westbrook, Patrick Beverley, other players, Kendrick Nunn, obviously not as important players, but this new look Lakers team is yet to face the Kings. They are 1-3 this season. The one game they did win was a close game in LA. The rest of them, the Kings have handled them, to be honest with you. The Kings have handled them quite easily, but like I said, all the matchups have been earlier in the season, and I think that this new look Lakers team could give a lot of problems for the Kings. Now, we look at a team like the Kings, one of the highest scoring offenses in the NBA, averaging around 121 points per game. They are an extremely young team. They like to run up and down the court. They like to get open threes. Rookie Keegan Murray is about to break the rookie three-point season in a season. Rookie three-point record in the season. They have a lot of ballers. De'Aaron Fox leads the NBA in clutch points. Domantas Sabonis, all-star this year. They have a lot of good pieces around them. However, when I look at a matchup between the Lakers, yes, we understand what LeBron James and Anthony Davis bring to the table. And we do also understand that last time they were in the playoffs, things didn't go according to plan. Now, while Phoenix were the better team, they had veteran leadership and they were poised to make a big, deep playoff run in the 2020 season, which did happen, or the 2021. Nope, the 2020 season. The 2020 season, the Lakers were overmatched. Not to mention Anthony Davis also struggled with injuries in that series, and that is definitely a possibility for this series. We saw the other night, NBA against Timberwolves, AD went down with that ankle, but he continued to play on it. So that begs the question about the Lakers' health. However, I think that they are doing everything in their power to make sure that LeBron and AD and the rest of the squad are prepared for the playoffs and going into it healthy. Although we do also understand it is crunch time for the regular season. Sacramento Kings have not made the playoffs in nearly 2 decades. Huge milestone for them, not only to make the playoffs, but to be a top 3 seed, coming in at the 3rd seed in a Western Conference, which has been up and down this year. However, we look at a team like Sacramento, we understand what they bring to the table, but we also know they do not have a lot of playoff experience behind them, particularly when it comes to their best players. De'Aaron Fox will be making his first postseason appearance. Domantas Sabonis has only played 13 games in the playoffs, and he has been on the lesser side of the seeding, but still, we understand he's played these games. Overall, the Kings have 152 playoff games between their players under their belt. Now, 116 of those playoff games are played between Harrison Barnes and Matthew Dellavedova. Dellavedova, my Australian man, making a big impact on the Kings, but realistically, he doesn't play on the court. Yes, he brings a veteran leadership and toughness. He has that relationship with head coach Mike Brown. Harrison Barnes, however, he does have some playoff experience, being with the Warriors for all those years and going on those title runs. He has some playoff experience under his belt. When you look at this against the likes of LeBron James, we know that LeBron James has 266 playoff games alone. Anthony Davis adds another 39 to that mix, but AD's also been a part of a championship winning team as the second best player on a championship team, sometimes on any given night in the playoffs, playing like the best player on the championship given team. So Anthony Davis has been on a championship run. He knows what it takes. Obviously, yeah, Dellavedova's also been on a championship run, but he wasn't as instrumental as a piece, maybe off the court, but not on the court compared to the likes of Anthony Davis in the playoffs. Now, this is the big trust factor. There is a lot of what ifs in this scenario. Now, do I trust De'Aaron Fox in a playoff series? I think I do, and I think he's made of the right stuff. But these Lakers are coming together, and they are coming together at the right time. I'm not saying they're going to win a championship, but I'm saying that they are poised to get out of the first round, and they are licking their chops, looking at a team like the Kings, who really don't have much veteran experience on the court. We look at the Phoenix Suns when they versed the Lakers. They had Chris Paul. And we know that Chris Paul is one of the best floor generals to ever grace an NBA court. We know what he brings to the table. And we know that he knows how to lead a team. Maybe he's also had his shortcomings in the playoffs. But with the likes of Devin Booker and the other players in that Phoenix Suns squad, Chris Paul was able to get it done. And we saw what he did in that playoff run regardless. Now, the Kings don't really have that veteran presence in late game situations. It's really De'Aaron Fox running the show, Domantas Sabonis being aggressive on the boards and in the post, getting them second chance opportunities. And I don't think that the formula that the Kings have worked with a lot of this season, with letting De'Aaron Fox do his own sort of thing, I don't think this is sustainable over the course of 7 games. I look at LeBron James, who, although he's not in the middle of his prime where he can single-handedly carry a team through a whole playoff run like he did with those Cleveland Cavaliers, in the end of the 2010s. And then at the end of that decade, we understand that LeBron controls the pace of the game and he controls the flow. If we get an Anthony Davis, who, like he has been playing in these past 3 games, has been on an absolute tear. He had 40 points in Houston last night. He's going to face the Clippers on Wednesday, who he hasn't particularly had a good track record against. But he's going to give Zubac and Mason Plumlee all all he can handle. Okay, he's really gonna give it to them, I think at least. But we don't know whether we're gonna get a Hakeem Olajuwon performance from Anthony Davis, or we don't know whether we're gonna get a Mason Plumlee performance from Anthony Davis. Now, sorry Mason Plumlee for catching a stray, but unfortunately, sometimes Anthony Davis doesn't have the performances that he's used to. A top 5 talent, a top 20 motor. If we can get that motor down, the Lakers are going to be in good shape. But LeBron, this season, 33, 9 rebounds, 7 assists against the Kings. I think this will only get better in the playoffs. Anthony Davis only played in one game of the 4 against the Kings. And he had a decent game, but again, not by Anthony Davis standards. Now, our next team, the Lakers and the Grizzlies. The Lakers are 2-1 against Memphis this season. AD, when he has played, has been an absolute force. 30 points, 20 rebounds, and 2.5 blocks. Now, if you told me that AD for a whole playoff run is going to average 30, 20, and 2.5, I would tell you right now the Los Angeles Lakers will win the NBA championship. But I do not think that's going to happen. But that's what I believe AD is capable of, putting up these types of stats. Ja Morant, similarly, he averages 30 points, 9 assists, and 6.5 rebounds versus the Lakers. So he has his fair share. The Lakers have some good defenders, but I don't think they have a good defender that can really keep up with Ja Morant. Jared Vanderbilt is not going to cut it. I don't think Malik Beasley is going to cut it either. I certainly think Schroeder and D'Angelo Russell aren't going to cut it in a full 7-game series. I believe, different to the Kings, the Grizzlies are battle-tested a lot more. Now, they do have some veteran leadership, right? They have Steven Adams, who comes to the table. Danny Green's also on that court, who have had very big playoff experience. But when you look at this team, I think that the Memphis Grizzlies are honestly being slept on in these playoffs. Now, we understand what happened with Ja Morant. We know the situation, and that was really not good for the trajectory of their season. But we know what Ja Morant brings to the table, okay? He, in my opinion, I think he had a great playoff series, overall playoffs. Last year, he eventually got knocked out in the second round by the Golden State Warriors, the eventual champions. But I think that the Grizzlies talk the talk, and I think when push comes to shove, they are going to walk the walk. If Dylan Brooks didn't get suspended for that game four, I think the Warriors still win, but I think it's in 7 games instead of 6. I think the Grizzlies really, really push the Warriors. And I think the Grizzlies are a bad matchup for the Lakers. I think over the course of a 7-game series, if Steven Adams is back, which is key to the AD matchup, then I think that the Grizzlies will beat the Lakers in the playoffs. I do not see the Lakers versing the Grizzlies in the first round, maybe the second round, and I still don't think the Lakers beat the Grizzlies in a playoff series. I have the Grizzlies going very deep into this year's playoffs. Unlike a lot of people, I don't think they play each other in the first round. If they do play each other in the first round, then this bold take will be rescinded because I don't think the Lakers will beat the Grizzlies in a playoff series. Now, this brings us to our last matchup, the Lakers versus the Denver Nuggets. They've split the season series 2 games apiece, both teams winning at home, which favors the Denver Nuggets in a 7-game series where the Denver Nuggets would have the home court advantage. It's very hard playing up in Denver. All the NBA teams know this, playing at high altitude. An average win margin of 13 points a game. So these two ball clubs aren't used to playing particularly close games against each other. And it is again interesting because the games are at home. Now, the last time they played in a playoff series was in the bubble, the 2020 Western Conference Finals. And Anthony Davis, this was his series. The AD Jokic matchup is the key to this series. AD averaged 31 and 6 against the Denver Nuggets. in that playoff series. I think he would average more rebounds based off the fact that they don't have those big bodies like Dwight and JaVale McGee like they did in that 2020 bubble championship team. But I think the AD Jokic matchup, like it was so pivotal in the 2020 matchup in the Western Conference Finals, AD was the reason they won that series. As good as LeBron played, AD won them that Western Conference Finals. He was the man. And I think in a first round playoff series this year, we will get the best of AD, particularly if Jokic wins the MVP again, which he very may well do. I don't have him as my MVP pick. But if Anthony Davis can match the production of Nikola Jokic, I believe the Lakers will win this series in 7 games because I think LeBron is going to be the difference. We know what Jamal Murray brings to the table. We know what Michael Porter Jr. and these boys bring to the table, but they ain't no LeBron James. And that is the matter of fact in this situation. In the end, LeBron will be the difference maker in this series. Because I also believe that D'Angelo Russell can play up to the level of Jamal Murray in a playoff series. Now we know what Jamal Murray did the last time he was in the playoffs in the bubble, but this ain't no bubble. Okay, this is back to the regular playoffs. It's not no crowd, have fun, pick up game energy. This is real life, back home and away, real crowds, more pressure, in my opinion, I believe, more pressure. We also look at the fact that Jamal Murray has come off an ACL injury and was kept him out of last year's playoffs. Now, I would pick the Lakers to beat Denver in a playoff series. And I know I talked about earlier in the episode at the start about how higher seeded teams get hyped up, but I just think that the Lakers are an absolute nightmare matchup for the Denver Nuggets. I don't think anyone's threatened by Denver, just as I guess they weren't threatened by them when they were in the bubble, and then they knocked out the Jazz, then they knocked out the Clippers, and then a lot of people thought after tying up the series 1-1, they were going to knock out the Lakers too, but it didn't work out that way. The Lakers, with their veteran experience, put them over the hump. I don't think Nikola Jokic is built for the playoffs. Now, prove me wrong, they did make the Western Conference Finals in the bubble. Last year, he didn't have Jamal Murray. And then I think he's a regular season player. I don't think he's the type of person that is going to play exceptionally in the playoffs. And maybe he'll play exceptionally statistically, but I don't think that's going to translate into championships. And that is my opinion on Nikola Jokic until otherwise. But that is my first bold prediction for the Lakers. They will make it past the first round. I believe they will face the Kings. I believe they will beat the Kings in 6 games. I believe they would lose to the Grizzlies if they verse them. I believe they would beat the Denver Nuggets in 7 games if they verse them. But now to my second bold prediction of this episode. The Golden State Warriors, ladies and gentlemen, they will make the Western Conference Finals. Now again, I stand firm in my opinion. The latest reports today is that Andrew Wiggins is back in the Bay Area and is nearing a return to the Warriors. And I think this is the type of move or the type of resurgence that the Warriors need to get their ship sailing back to a deep playoff run. Now, I don't think the Warriors are going to have any issue integrating him. I think they've been missing a lot of the things Andrew Wiggins brings to the table. Now, we understand that the Warriors were 19 and 18 when Wiggins played. So statistically, they were better, but they weren't significantly better. Okay, but the majority of those games, they were 5 and 13 on the road. So they had more road games when Wiggins played than home games. Statistically, the Warriors are better in every single category when Wiggins plays, except for rebounds. But I don't think that's that big of an issue. They're better in every statistical category when Andrew Wiggins plays. He brings a toughness to this team, particularly on the defensive end, where when Draymond Green is that defensive anchor, Andrew Wiggins is that second man who says, okay, I'm going to go and guard the best player on the opposing team, and I'm going to make life hell for them. We saw what Jason Tatum had to go through in the NBA Finals when he went up against Andrew Wiggins. Andrew Wiggins, while playing that defense on Jason Tatum, averaged 18 points and 9 rebounds in the 2022 NBA Finals last year. And I think that the Warriors are able to flip this switch. I see a lot of people, other fellow analysts on TV, talking about how the Warriors' road record is going to be the reason they lose. And they very may well could be right. But when push comes to shove, the Warriors only need to win one game on the road in each playoff series. Now, do I think that in a playoff series, the Warriors can win one game on the road? My answer is yes. People are acting like the Warriors are going to have to go on the road and they're going to have to win 4 games on the road. They're not going to have to win 4 games on the road. If they keep their serve at home, they will go and just need to win 1 game on the road. And theoretically, that's all they have to do. It might be harder. They might drop a game at home and then they have to win 2 games on the road to advance. But I look at a team like the Golden State Warriors, I think that they have it in them to flip that switch. I think they have it in to flip that switch and go. Steph Curry's greatness cannot be underrated. Okay, this man is the reigning defending NBA champion and finals MVP of the NBA. And he's still averaging 30 points per game this year. He's still Steph Curry. We know what he brings to the table. We know what Klay Thompson brings to the table. Draymond Green, the glue of this Warriors dynasty. We know what he brings to the table. Jordan Poole had a great NBA playoffs last year. Now, we know he's been a bit turnover prone this season, but I think he'll get his act together in the playoffs. And I think the Warriors can flip this switch and make a run to the Western Conference Finals. I don't think they'll win in the Western Conference Finals, but they could. They very well could. The way I see it, we could be having a Warriors-Memphis Grizzlies Western Conference Finals, is the way I'm seeing it. But I will get more into my official predictions on our next episode coming this weekend. But the Warriors advancing to the conference finals. Who are they going to verse in the first round? And that brings me to my third bold prediction, is that I believe the Phoenix Suns will get bounced early in the playoffs amid health concerns. Now, if the Golden State Warriors make it to the first round, they verse Phoenix in the 5-4 matchup, I will state it right on the table here that I believe the Golden State Warriors will beat the Phoenix Suns in the first round of the NBA playoffs. And I'm going to tell you why. We look at the Suns this year and we understand that Kevin Durant is Kevin bleeping Durant when he wants to be. But for the most of his season, he has been out injured. And that is mainly my big concern. I think if everyone was healthy, we could have a different conversation. We could have an in-depth conversation about this playoff series, because even when healthy, I still think that there is disaster potential for Phoenix. And I'm going to get into that later in this bold prediction right here. Kevin Durant has played 45 games this year. Devin Booker hasn't been much better. He's only played 51 games this year. And Chris Paul hasn't been much better. 57 games. KD's missed about half the season. Chris Paul and Devin Booker are nearly close to a half as well. And I think that the lack of chemistry is really what's going to come back to bite them. Now, you might say, Luka, they're 6-0 when KD is on the court. That is true. They are 6-0. They're statistically similar, if I'm being honest. When you look at the stats, the only glaring statistic is that the Phoenix Suns average less turnovers and better field goal percentage when Kevin Durant is on the floor. He makes them that much more efficient. But in terms of the stats we use to measure, Kevin Durant statistically doesn't make them much better of a team. But that's when we look at your eye test, because statistics can't tell you everything. And we see the impact that Kevin Durant is making on the court. We see what he's doing. Now, I don't trust Phoenix's health. We know Kevin Durant, 27, 6.5 rebounds, 4 assists, and his shooting splits 60 from the field, 50% from 3, and 88% from the free throw line. Do I anticipate that continues? No, I don't anticipate that continues. I don't trust their health. I understand, again, Devin Booker's averaging 31, 7, and 4. Kevin Durant, in a way, is just being the icing on the cake. He's not being the main scorer. That's Devin Booker's job. Kevin Durant is there to knock down open shots, and that is the scary element when I see Phoenix, is how many open shots Kevin Durant is getting and how easy it is for him. But I believe that if the Phoenix Suns were to go ahead and simply throw Kevin Durant into the mix, have him play less than 10 games before going on a playoff run and winning the NBA title, I think that this would be absolutely disastrous for the NBA. And I'm going to tell you why. Because when you just throw a team together and they go and win an NBA championship, what does that say about the value of that championship? What does that say to other teams who think that they could just go and throw a team together and win a championship? I don't think this is the type of the mentality we want to be seeing from teams as it pertains to getting star players like a Kevin Durant. And granted, there aren't many like a Kevin Durant. And if I'm being honest, Kevin Durant, in my opinion, is one of the few players you could just throw onto a team and the word championship gets mentioned. That is how good Kevin Durant is. But I think it would be horrible for the NBA and the brand they're trying to sell if Kevin Durant walks into Phoenix, plays less than 10 games before going on a playoff run and wins a title. And I think there's a reason we haven't seen a team win doing that. And the last recent example we can point to is the Los Angeles Clippers after acquiring Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. We saw they were load managing Kawhi all throughout that first year when he was relatively healthy to our knowledge. They were putting him on load management. They put Paul George on load management, and they thought that they could just smack bang, get it together in the playoffs and win a championship. And that did not happen. It went all wrong for the Clippers. They choked a 3-1 lead. Granted, it was in the bubble. And if you hear those guys talk, those boys didn't want to be in the bubble. But personally, I think that either way, the Clippers probably would have had the same problems. And I think these Suns are also going to have these problems. Because, ladies and gentlemen, right now the Suns are 6-0 with Kevin Durant. What happens when the Suns have a bad game and they get into a bit of turmoil? How are they going to respond? We know Kevin Durant isn't the most mentally strong superstar. He's had his fair share of shortcomings. We've seen that people can get to him quite easily. He can be quite sensitive, not only in the public eye, but also when it comes to his teammates. I don't trust Phoenix's ability to bounce back if something goes wrong. If they get down 2-0 in a series, if they go down 3-2 in a series to the Golden State Warriors, if they win one of those games on the road, I don't think that Phoenix as a team are battle tested enough. And I don't think you can just throw it all together and make it work. And that's just simply my position on it. I don't think you can do it. I don't think it's going to happen. But I don't trust their health to begin with. I look at how many games they've missed. And the playoffs is harder than the regular season. You're going every second night playing a game. I don't wish injury upon anyone. Don't get me wrong. I want Phoenix to be fully healthy because then we can see when push comes to shove and the chips get pushed to the middle of the table what they are made of. Because we know what Chris Paul is. We know what Devin Booker is. We know what Kevin Durant is. But together, we don't know what they are, at least in the long term. And that is why I don't think Phoenix are going to make a deep playoff run. Now, this one, we're coming in hot and heavy with our last two bold predictions. The New York Knicks. Yes, you heard me right. The New York Knicks will make it past the first round against the Cleveland Cavaliers. Jalen Brunson, ladies and gentlemen. Jalen Brunson is that guy. 48 points in their last matchup at Cleveland. Technically, or as everyone likes to call them, the NBA's best defense. I don't think so. The Knicks are 3-1 against the Cleveland Cavaliers this season. Now, we look at the last time the Knicks were in the playoffs. Obviously, they didn't have Jalen Brunson. I think Jalen Brunson is going to be the difference maker. Look, they still had Julius Randle, and we know what he represents, but he did not play good in his last playoff run. He, quite frankly, was atrocious, and Trae Young took the New York fan base's souls when they played the last time in the 4-5 matchup, where granted the Knicks were the 4 matchup. Now they're coming in as the 5 matchup. RJ Barrett, in my opinion, is the key for the New York Knicks. Brunson needs a reliable third option, because Julius Randle is going to be that guy. And we look at what Jalen Brunson, Donovan Mitchell, and Darius Garland, they're going to have that battle. Then we look what Julius Randle brings to the table when he goes up against Jarrett Allen and Evan Mobley. And the one position at question is that small forward position. Who's going to step up? Because RJ Barrett has the perfect opportunity to step up in a playoff series like this. He's shooting very well against the Cavaliers. 43% from the field, 42% from three-point range. RJ Barrett at times is being labeled as a volume scorer who is extremely inefficient. And for the New York Knicks to win this playoff series, he needs to step up and be efficient. And if RJ Barrett is efficient and can play that defense that we know he can play, I think the New York Knicks are poised to win this series and make it past the first round. Now, do I think they beat the Milwaukee Bucks? No. I do not think they beat the Milwaukee Bucks. But I think New York is made of the right stuff. We're going to get into that more in depth on our next episode because I know, and for those of you still watching, since our guests have been on, Oscar Hardcastle is a big Cleveland Cavaliers fan. And to my knowledge, Tyson McMullen is also a big Cavaliers fan. I think they might be very overhyped, nearly as overhyped as the Philadelphia 76ers, who are taking the hype away from Cleveland, who made all the noise at the start of the year. Now, my last prediction. Not so much a team, but as an individual player, Giannis Antetokounmpo will clearly and undoubtedly, undisputedly establish himself as the best player in the world. It's happening, okay? Giannis is that guy. Milwaukee Bucks, in my opinion, are going to win the NBA championship. I think they have been the best team in the NBA for a long time. In the 2022 playoffs, let me read you these numbers. 31 points, 14 rebounds, 7 assists. Now we fast forward back to the 2021 NBA Finals. 35 points, 13 rebounds, and 5 assists. And we know what Giannis brought to the table in that series. He had some absolutely monstrous playoff numbers. This man gets better and better in the playoffs, and he is an unstoppable force. This year, the team will be fully healthy, unlike last year where they fell short in the second round to the Boston Celtics. They will be fully healthy this year. Chris Middleton will be back. Drew Holiday is there. Brook Lopez has had a resurgence of his career. He's going to be top 3 for my vote in Defensive Player of the Year. Many people have him winning. I'm not convinced. I think Jaren Jackson Jr. might have the edge over him. But Giannis does not shy away from the big games. No one will beat them when they are fully healthy. Boston will not beat them. Those goddamn 76ers certainly won't beat them. And the Knicks or the Cavaliers or whoever they face are not going to beat the Milwaukee Bucks. Now we look at who is going to come out of the West. No one in the West matches up well with these Bucks. The only team I would say that really matches up well against them is the Los Angeles Lakers. And I don't think the Los Angeles Lakers are making it to the NBA Finals. Sorry to break that to Laker Nation. I think Giannis will clearly establish himself as the best player. We've seen him We've seen him in a Game 7 at Kevin Durant's house go for 50 points. In KD's house in Brooklyn. We've seen him in a Game 6 of the NBA Finals go for 50 points and 5 blocks in a Game 7. In a Game 6 of the NBA Finals. Okay? This man is something else. And I don't want to hear no Embiid. I don't want to hear no Jokic. Giannis Antetokounmpo is that guy. And he is going to make sure everyone, and when I say everyone, I mean everyone, knows that when this season is done. He is going to say, I am the best player in the world. No one can stop me. And no one is going to be able to stop him. But that is how it's going to play out. We will definitely get into it once again with our official playoff predictions once we get on to episode 27 on Saturday. But, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to Priceless Takes episode 26. We will definitely be having Oscar and Tyson and maybe a few more people stopping by to talk some hoops as we get into the NBA playoffs. Following the NBA playoffs, we will have a NFL preview recapping free agency. The Aaron Rodgers news is still yet to be released. We know that he wants to play for the Jets. They're still working out on a deal. It's expected to be done before the draft, according to the reports I've been getting told. We'll see what happens with that. But until then, we will remain talking about hoops. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being with me. Once again, do not forget to follow us on social media. We have Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. We post shorts, we post polls. We are very active on our social media, and we love the follower engagement that you guys get, and we love having really good fun debates in the comments, and it's a great time. So make sure to follow those. Link will be down in the description below, or if not, it's at Priceless Takes, all one word, all lowercase, for you to find it. But ladies and gentlemen, I am your host, Luka Price. Thank you for joining with me for Priceless Takes episode 26. I will see you next time.